So to continue on from the Draupnir strategy, you want to socially find 9 people to awaken, for lack of a better word. Now, of these 9 people, I recommend 3 different subgroups to focus on. The reason for the subgroups is to strengthen your immediate community and your family, to also strengthen your secondary community, like your neighbours and your townsfolk, and then a third group which is further removed again in proximity to where you live, so that you might be spreading your ideas regionally as well. I refer to these 3 groups like concentric circles, yards from yourself to your surroundings, and I think of them, for my understanding, I refer to them as Asgard, Midgard, and Utgard. So the Asgardians would be your close friends and family, perhaps even your blood relations, ones that don't see the world how you see it, but you might be able to change that, and you do that. You aim for 3 people in your close family or friends, people that you've known for a long time and have a rich investment in already, so to speak. You might be able to speak more openly and freely with these people, so you might be able to get through to them a little bit quicker. The next group would be the Midgard group, which is your neighbours and things like people who work in the store down the road. Depending on where you live, of course, this might vary. But people you see most days, certainly a few days a week. They might not necessarily be considered your friends, but you want to befriend them. Part of the plan here is also to get in touch with your community. If your primary interaction with people is online, you're not going to be around in 100 years. You're not going to be around in 200 or 1,000 years. Real world interactions is the only way we survive. We are hitchhiking on the infrastructure of society that is already in place. We're not uprooting the government. We're not trying to make any national or international political changes. All we want to do is talk to our community and help them see the world the way that we see it. We're existing within the infrastructure that is already here, but part of this social organisation, like what I'm doing with my Midgard group, is martial arts. I'm doing combative work with men to make them better men. Things like hunting and survivalist type, like that's what my Midgard group is here. It's like survivalism and a little bit of permaculture. Not so much the permaculture, more about the combatives and the shit hits the fan type scenarios. This is great because the guys here are already into it. What they don't understand is why we're in this potential doom and gloom already, which is part of the process, is awakening them to the mentality and the ideas. It's a battle of ideas in minds, not boots on the ground. So that's good for me, but I don't know what's good for you, but you need to find that. And on the shit hits the fan topic, while I'm on that, it's no good waiting for this to happen. We need to be prepared for it. I'm personally hoping for it, but reality is preparing for the worst and hoping for the best. That's what realism is. So I'm prepared for it, but I don't want to be one-track mind on that possible scenario that hasn't happened yet. I don't want to be sitting around waiting for the apocalypse when it may not happen. It will happen eventually, but what form it will take, we don't know, and when it's going to happen, we don't know either. So I don't want to put all my resources into that. I need to be in both worlds. The world that we exist in currently, and then preparing for the next one, whatever that may be. But back to the Draupnir plan, that's the Midgard group. 3 people that you see in your day-to-day life that you might not necessarily consider them close to you. Make them closer and make them more like you. The third group is the Utgard group, or the outyard, people who live beyond your neighbourhood. If you live in a town, it'd probably be people in the next town over. So if you have a job where you go to school or whatever you do, you might travel for a hobby or for a class or for work. I travel for work. And I have to drive sometimes up to an hour away, sometimes more even, for my day-to-day job. But people that I work with live nowhere near me, but we come together and we interact daily. But they will take these ideas, these 3 people in this group that I work on, they're going to take these ideas back to their region, and when they are proficient and they understand the way that I see the world, I'm going to encourage them. I'm going to introduce them to what I've done to them and how I've helped them understand the world, and encourage them to do that in their local area, the exact same thing. So we're strengthening our family through understanding. We're reaching out to our local community through social interaction, which is good regardless, even without the red pills. This is positive because we're creating communities. If we can't have the most fully understanding community, at least have a community. It's better than dying alone. And then the Utgard group is spreading the idea as well. But the key thing here is that they are real world interactions. It's not via the internet. It is great to communicate via the internet and share information, but internet friends are not the same weight and value as real life friends. And that's what the message that I get out of the Draupnir reproduction. It's great. A lot of people have awoken people via the internet, but where the internet communication is lacking, for example, like the way Varg has communicated with his followers, he's reached tens of thousands of people, but how many of those tens of thousands of people have reacted and responded and changed their lives for the better? Very, very few. And it's failed in a sense because he has no personal communication, no physical interaction, no social bond. He had, not for his lack of trying, he was great at communicating back and forth with people. He did try. But that's why the success rate is so low, because it's not within the boundaries of Dunbar's number and the natural success rate in hierarchy. So that's where people who have benefited from influences of people like Varg and others like him, we need to be these real world influences in our communities. And I guess that's the benefit of something like the big awakening that has happened with many people online. We've seen who is receptive to these ideas. We know that people are out there, but we just need to invest a stronger communication to have a better effect. So I think that makes sense. Now, some people are going to criticize this and say it's not going to work, but I don't care. People are full of criticisms, myself included. Criticism is okay, but if you're just constantly sitting behind a computer criticizing people without contributing any better ideas, well, what good are you? Obviously, negligent ideas that are absolutely going to backfire should be discouraged. But we're better to try and fail rather than fail to try. And I believe this Draupnir strategy is a good way to grow numbers rapidly, but not too quickly that we're going to have hyperinflation and infiltration within our groups. By having 3 groups of 3 people, we can closely monitor and we approach each group slightly differently, and we subcategorize and we break up these people so that we can work on them more effectively. And the key here is capping it at 9. Don't get greedy. Don't think I can do this with more. No, because as soon as you try and reach more people, you substitute quality for quantity, and that's when this will fail. If you're going to try this, don't try for too many, because it won't take long, if this is successful, for the numbers to multiply rapidly. Because remember, we're talking about changing 9 people. So we're taking 9 people out of the mess, which reduces that number. It's only a very, very small reduction in number. But we're taking away from the problem and turning them into something productive, which is good. It's a positive change. All the while everyone else is still reproducing and degenerating at the same time. But if these 9 people also follow the 9 times reproductive strategy, each of these people will then become, in our total effect we've had, that's 81 people. If we include their spouses, that makes 90. If we include our own 9 children and spouse, we've got 100 people. You've turned yourself into 100 people in one move within one generation. Then of course we're encouraging them to do this elsewhere. We can't guarantee that they will, but if this does happen, every move we have, we're multiplying by 100. This is extremely fast growth. And then we've got this happening in every generation as well, because of course we raise our children to do the same thing. Now, I'm not saying this is easy, but this is simple. And simplicity is key for strategy. Don't overcomplicate things. Now, I know for many young men out there, the hardest thing here is going to be finding a woman. And there's plenty of advice that people could give out there, but the most important thing to do is to get off your computer and go out into the real world and try. And like with the strategy for numbers, we don't want to aim too high. You need to have a standard. You need to have minimum standards, that's for sure. But don't be too picky. Don't sacrifice something or risk losing something that's good because you're trying to find something that's perfect. Take something good and polish it. That's all I have to say on that matter. You really just need to get out and have a go. Work on bettering yourself, and once you've done that, once you've made yourself as best as you can be, extend that perfection program on the others around you. Start small and grow organically. I think that makes sense. I hope it motivates people to do something. I still want to interact with people online because I want to hear about positive feedback. I want to hear the good news that people are actually making real world connections. We cannot replace our real life tribe with an online tribe, and we don't want to make our online tribe a real life tribe either. We need to take advantage of the communications that we have while we've got it, but we cannot depend on it forever. So, do something. That's all I have to say. Thanks for listening.